I never chose the Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains chose me, and it's been a part of my life to preserve the Appalachian Mountain people's heritage. The mountain's got its own ways, and it's a wild nature. You ever wondered why all the Appalachian people were devoted to Christ? I think it was just the sheer nature God gave them to live in that made them modest and humble. Here's a view looking up. Now this would have been made to see down in the valley, but to me it's almost like a ram head with the mouth and the horns going down around the side of the head. It was stacked up there. Just makes you wonder who would have laid these huge stones. You just look down, you can see how far it really is. A long way down. This wall goes for 4.5 miles. This is unreal. As you can see right here, this was dug out deep within the earth. These sand springs that these Indians found, and this thing's allow the water to shoot from hundreds and thousands of feet below. Now imagine walking through here in the 1800s and seeing this outcrop of rocks and this cave going back in here. So the man that lived here, he would have built his cabin, a log cabin across, and I'm going to show you a picture he took just to get a view of how this guy would have lived up here. He would have stopped by and stayed here, probably temporary, but you can just look around and see it. It's a cozy little spot, and it would have been a place for one person, maybe two at the most. But there is things here. There's past history left. So there's an old piece of stove, and if you look at it closely, that probably would have been part of the lid. An old railroad tunnel. They dug it about half mile deep, and I guess the iron ore business wasn't so good, so they quit. But a lot of things you find, it's awesome. They cut these rocks. I'm sure they did a lot by hand. I never know what you'll find in these caves. You can see the old iron ore pieces that were in here. They chiseled them out. And guys worked hard. Now here's a place we all hold in our heart. R.J. Wardner, back in 1939, he had a dream. A dream that's in a lot of us Appalachian people, to hand build a cabin. Now imagine coming here, just looking out your window and enjoying nature. Let's take a look around here. A lot of unique building techniques. See, the Appalachian people's roots run deep in these mountains, back to the Revolutionary War, like my great-grandfathers who fought in the Civil War, in a division that they almost didn't survive. And I look back and I think about my great-great-grandfather, William Henry, and how he lived in a simple home and lived in the mountains, taught his family, like my grandfather, how to live and hunt with a longbow and provide for his family. See, this is my grandfather's house also. He rode the horse for his transportation. Right now we're in a place where my grandpa was young, and he actually cut these fields out from raw wilderness, places that were not touched for years, and he made these fields. We're gonna go down the stream. Guys, we're down here at the smoke hole. A nice place to be. This is where my grandpa, George Silks, he used to log in these mountains, and this used to be an old motel here. And they still got the stone foundation left. Okay boys, this is where you get your drink. That's the old spring that the log camp used. I'm on the north side of the mountain here. Gonna take you down to an old iron ore furnace. And right here is our forefathers' beginning and America's beginning. You can see the old charred pieces they had there, charred stone. Here's the back side, and it goes all the way up there. Right there. No one knows the exact purpose of this tower. If you look up this thing is a brute. Standing real tall on top of the mountain, just sitting up here by itself in the middle of nowhere. But the rocks are about ready to come off. We're gonna look down here at the bottom, search around for some other stuff. They built a retaining wall here next to this tower. You can see it just split right up the middle. That's some nice rocks there. Almost looks like an eagle. Wing shape and the mouth shape going the whole way around. Front view of the eagle, you can see it looks like two eyes almost. And there you can see a part of a tail. And here, just an odd rock that I showed you earlier. Now here, off the beaten path, found this amazing relic from like the times of them digging coal. It was a coal digger. Take a look at them treads. Now that's old school technology. Big cast iron plate. You know, it's still remaining in it. Look how thick that is, them cables. And think of all the work they did. Think of this, an old bucket like this, digging away, making ends meet. Think of the man that operated this, the old foot pedals, the old levers. Amazing. What's the name on there? Found a name in the back. Call this the General. This is good hard coal here. It's the way we do it around here. All that blue smoke from the tar and the hemlock going up, staying in the woods like that. Real things coming here in St. Anthony's Wilderness area. And I made it over here to Clark's Creek. And I'm going to show you this old iron forge. The iron furnace. It is tall. And they got trees growing out of it. So you get you a little closer here. A lot of stuff in these here mountains. You can see the remains and the amount of fire that was in here to work down that iron ore out of the rock. There it is. Now here I got an old picture of Stony Creek, and this is called Cold Springs. And what they had was old motel and a building and houses, little buildings here. And we're gonna go down, we found the railroad station where it would have been, not much here. But we're going to go down, because I'm sure we're going to find something where these houses were. I think the easiest thing to find would be this. So let's see what we can find. Okay, here's the right corner of that big motel I was telling you about. You can see the trees have grown inside it already. Alright, here's steps leading to that building just to the right of that motel. It's almost connected, but it isn't. And these are the steps you probably would have walked in front of the motel. And up here to where the building was with the flag, maybe that was the head of the motel area. Maybe a water tower area. Maybe you guys know a little more about these. But it probably held the wall. And I'm looking around here, and like here's parts of an old plate. Well, here's the old house. You can see the old notching. And he kept it original. Right along the mountain here, what remains. I'm going to take a gander at how the old fella used to live. He's got his old skillet and stoves. The man lived rural. See his old cups. He lived like a true Appalachian, this man. Have a look down here in the old spring house, see what's inside. There you can see they did some canning. A lot of old stuff remains, a lot of unique things they used. This is the Devil's Race Course. Miles and miles, 3 to 4 miles of just pulverized stones laying from what was the same exact saddle as that wall that I showed you. It's just breathtaking. Just the amount of rubble that's here. The most intriguing part of all this is the rattling run that runs underneath it. People think, you know, they know where everything goes, got everything under control. Down here is a creek you'll never get to. You may never find it, you may never see it, but it is there. Sometimes you get close to it. There's a good spot to hear it rattling run. Lots of rattlesnakes, and this is rattlesnake territory. Rattlesnake season. And right here where we camped is the Roush Creek settlement. And if I remember correctly, I think there was 1,100 people living here. And you can see why they call it Stony Creek. Now here looks to me like a humongous well. It was a wall for sure. Maybe even an entryway there. Remains of an old cemetery. Back in here to remember the people. I imagine one like that. That's back in the mid-1800s for sure. And I've since learned that this was built a long time ago, in the 1600s perhaps, by the Hessians, used as slaves to the owners of this farm territory. Now it's all mountain ground, but you can just see the hard work they put into that. It's just an awesome view of what history used to be. And you think about the old timers that were here years ago in the POW camp. Alright, so I'm walking through the mountain here at an old military camp. It's an interrogation camp for World War II. and I'm going to explain more. First I'm going to show you the old sites I found, the rocks where the buildings were. This was a secret hidden deep in the mountains. Now this is the Civilian Conservation Corps office. So here's a big concrete circle, a lot of inscriptions on it, and I think this was from the prisoner of war camp. Looking for an old fountain somebody told me about that's up here in the mountains. It used to be the center where they walked up to their camp, civilian corps, and probably the center of the POW camp. And this is an awesome site. This would have been the fountain that they made originally, Conservation Corps. And you can see, you look in here, you can see the old wire they use, the old pipe, hold this old fountain together. Just back in the mountain here, you know, history just waiting for people to find, and you just gotta look around and ask people. And this is a great historic spot. I mean, you look and you just think, what did they put on that rock in the middle? Who was here and what kind of drills did they do? What kind of soldiers were through this military camp? How many Japanese did they have in here interrogating? You know, pictures don't do it justice, but I can only imagine what it was like back in the days with the prisoners here. It would be a total different place. Now this here rock marks the headquarters, the staff office, and the nurses building. But it's pretty unique. It's made out of that reddish pink stone, sandstone. And I'm not sure exactly the purpose. Maybe when everything was all fixed up, it just had an arrow right here. Right here's the tip of the arrow. Old tile that still remains. And it's like that's the corner of the building. It just went up through here. And there's an old set of steps there. Head up over the mountain here. There's a trail I can follow. And that leads to an old logging road down in Henry Valley. Down in this valley here, right there would be your house. So when you look out at your house, you'd see your fence down here, holding your animals. And I'll show you that shelf. You ever travel deep in the woods and find the old homesteads of the people that settled this country? Sometimes you just gotta travel back in and look around, look for the rocks. Hey, take a look at how they laid these fire rocks up here on an angle so the smoke flows up and it came up this. Traveling back in the woods, I found this old cemetery. It's looks like most of the people were out of here by 1880s. This is 1882. Just a couple things here. They built a wall around that cemetery. I also got to see the grave of the notorious Blue-Eyed Six. Tombstone, that's all I did back then. Did a lot for the community, a lot for the church. You don't see this every day. Spring run through a pile of old railroad ties. Hook an old steam-powered engine up to here to pump the well. You can see it pumps the water back and forth instead of doing it by hand. Still standing. It's got the old wood shingles on the top. They used to treat it with oil instead of painting at barns. And they're still around today. See how they lap the boards? It's not your standard cedar shingles. And they put them old snow guards up there. And right in here was a visitor looking at us right at our feet. There's many rattlesnakes out this way. Most people would just see this as an ordinary spring. Puking out all this orangish yellow sediment. What we have here is an old coal mine buried deep below the water, and it's pushing up all the water out of that coal mine. And that's the remains of history. We'll give you a closer view of how they look. And that has a lot of rings on it, so That shows the age of the ginseng right there. This mountain has ginseng. Well, good night, guys. See that moon up there? Time to sleep.